So, one of the first things I've read for the month is Heavy, the memoir, an American memoir by Kiese, Laymon. And this is my second book reading that I've read from him. My book club read his book about 2 years ago, Long Division, which is a fiction, and since this is nonfiction, it's a little bit different. And it's kind of the story of his life, and he compares it a lot to his weight as he's going along. The thing that I was most impressed about is his mentioning of different authors, and every time he mentioned the one, I was like, I read them. And of course he had to shout out my girl Nikki Giovanni, and he talked about a collection I haven't read yet, so I already went to the library and got it, because I'm like, if he talks about it and wrote about it, I gotta read it. And so it's a great book. I also have it on Kindle, so I would read and listen to it. The problem was, like, I would read something at night, but I would still listen to it when I got in the car the next day, because I was just like, I gotta hear how he says that again. So it was a great reading experience to read it from two different formats. Another book that I've read this month so far is Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and it is a romance book that is set in the old West. And it's about a character named Ryan, who is black, but he's passing as white, and he falls in love with a black woman, and so he has to make the choice of which race does he want to be. And I literally read this in two settings. I read half of it under the dryer on Friday night, and then I read the second half after I got home from church on Sunday. And I was like, oh, it's over with. So since it's the first book in a series, I went ahead and requested the second book, and it's already in from the library, so I'm gonna pick it up now. And I'm gonna try and pace myself not to start on it until the weekend, but I can't say I ain't. Who knows? Well, I want to talk about the audiobooks that I've read for this month. The first one is Less, and it's by Andrew Sean Greer, and it is a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, and it is about a gay man who gets an invitation to one of his former lovers' upcoming wedding, and he decides to take invitations to all these literary events because he's a writer, just to avoid going to the wedding. I'm not saying this to be homophobic or anything like that, but this is probably one of the most gayest novels I've ever read. And the reason I say that is because the majority of the characters are gay, and so it is not like they're just thrown in as an add-on character. This is about gay men, a gay man's life, and the people that he interacts with. And the part that I liked the most was his world hopping, because he goes to Morocco, he goes to Mexico, he goes to all over Europe, into Asia. And so it was fun to hear all these places and all these adventures he's having, just to try and avoid something that, we're all gonna have somebody that he was in a relationship with is getting married and invited to the wedding. I'm just probably saying no, and not worried about just coming up with this excuse, but that was how he coped with it. And so I thought it was good. I've seen people that have raved about the book on BookTube, but I didn't think it was anything that was like like this is the best book I've ever read. It was a good book. It kept my mind occupied as I'm traveling to work and thinking about all the tedious things I have to do at work. It gave me something to think about with all the world traveling. The other books that I've attempted to listen to this month, I shouldn't say read, but listen to this month, have been a bore. The first one being The Good Neighbor, the life and work of Fred Rogers by Maxwell King, and it is read by LeVar Burton. So I was thinking when I picked this up, Mr. Rogers, that's what I grew up on. He's one of my favorite dudes. You know, that's who taught me how to be neat and, you know, have a good day and be a good neighbor. Well, I don't know if it's just... And then LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow, love his voice. I thought this was going to be a slam dunk. Well, I don't know if it's just because Mr. Rogers' life really was kind of... I don't know. It's like, it was just one of the excitement, and I was finding myself like, you know, my eyes getting heavy. I said, oh no, I'm trying to drive. I can't listen to this anymore. So I put that one back in the box. And also I tried to listen to Milkman by Anna Burns. Everybody's talking about this book being so great. Maybe it's better to read, but for me, listening to it, I was getting frustrated because evidently they're no character names. And so I'm like, third brother-in-law, who the hell, what's his name? So wasn't a fan. So I finished Breathless by Beverly Jenkins, and it is another historical romance, and it's the second book in the Old West series, and it follows one of the nieces of the main character from the first book, and she's now an adult, and she's working as a bookkeeper in the family business, and reconnects with a cowboy from her past when they were originally in the first city, Virginia City, I think, wherever. Anyway, so to me, it was good, but it wasn't as good as the first book, Forbidden. I looked at the reviews for the third book in the series, and they aren't as good as this one, so I don't think I'm going to continue on, but I do want to continue to read Beverly Jenkins because her grasp of history and putting Black characters in a romance is just brilliant, and I definitely want to keep reading her. For the Caribbean Reads Challenge that was going on, in celebration of Caribbean Heritage Month, I read Marlon James' debut novel. So that's John Crow's Devil by Marlon James, and it's his debut novel. I have never been able to read Marlon James because I have the Book of Night Women, and I started it and I was like, ugh, put it down. This new book that he has out, it looks like something I ain't gonna read, so I have not even tried to pick that up. But this was brilliant. I always saw on Comfy Cozy Up's videos, it was sitting in the background, so I was like, oh, I gotta try it, I was intrigued. And for me, it's a book of, it is a book of biblical account, is the way I could kind of describe it. You have this epic biblical battle going on between the pastor of a church and an apostle that comes in. And it is, when you think about what really the Bible is good versus evil. And throughout this, you can never really tell, is it the apostle that's good or is it the pastor that's good? And throughout it, it's shifting. You never really can tell. And I thought that was just straight up brilliant how he did it. And you don't have to be Christian or anything to follow along, but it keeps shifting between the two, this power struggle. And I loved it. And he does a very interesting thing. He puts the ending of the novel at the beginning, and the last chapter is called The Beginning. And to me, that also has biblical references because we've been taught in church that God is the author and finisher of our faith. So he sees the end and backs up and starts with the beginning. So I'm like, this is just, it was just awesome how it went. And it didn't really take long to read. I got so caught up in it. I learned I thought John Crow was a person, but John Crow is actually like what we call a black crow in the South. And then of course the devil, because of that evil thing. It's only like 228 pages. And you know, the other books that Marlon James have put out are like 5+. If you're looking to get a taste of it, I think it's a great taste to get started. I am going to attempt to try and do the Book of Night Women since I already have that. I need to try and read that one. So this month I was able to complete 13 short stories out of the Children of the Night anthology that was edited by Gloria Naylor, and of course all of them were not great, so I will list the ones, everything that I read down there, but I did want to highlight a few, especially authors that I had never heard of, and they could always get some love and get some attention to their work. So I read a book called, not a book, a short story by an author named Andrea Lee, and it's called Mother. And her word usage is just brilliant in that story. And it's about a mother who is on the outside all traditional, does everything for her family, but she has a twisted dark side. And I just love that story. It was really good. Then another short story I read was Long Distances by Jewell Parker Rhodes. And the basic premise of that story was that a husband is taking his wife to across country to California to pursue her dreams. And you would think it's really about the long distance between leaving where they were from to go where they're going. But throughout it, you get peeks into relationships within that short story between the husband and the wife. There's distance between the in-laws and the couple. Is distance even between the children and the parents. And so I love a short story what makes me kind of think about stuff, and that was a good one for thinking about really what was the short story saying. This author right here really blew me away. Her name is Diane Oliver, and I read a short story called Neighbors, and it was about a family trying to make the decision for their child to be the first child to integrate into a school system. And she captured the emotion that was behind it, the anxiety, not sure if you're making the right decision by putting this child through. Yeah, we like to celebrate history, but thinking about what was really going on with the families behind it. Miss Oliver, she tragically died in 1966 in an accident, and so she doesn't have a huge body of work, just some short stories, but her writing is so excellent that it just makes me wonder if she had lived, you know, what type of author would she have become. I read a story, The Witness by Ann Petry. That was my first read by her, and I was blown away, so definitely got to pick up some Ann Petry because I've heard lots of people talking about The Street, so I need to get on that. Maya Angelou. Read her poetry all the time, nonfiction. Have not really read any of her fiction stuff, but this was a short story called Steady Going Up, and it was about a man going north to pick up his sister who had fallen sick in Cincinnati, I believe. And in that story, she shows that no matter where the geography is, the racist intents of many whites in the country are still going to try and hold us back, no matter where we're trying to go up to. But anyway, my girl Gloria Naylor, she has a short story in the collection called Kiswani Brown. It's actually just one of the chapters from The Women of Brewster Place, because that is just a collection of short stories, and so that was good. Rita Dove, she had a story called Secondhand Man. Once again, she's another one. I have read her poetry, hadn't read her fiction before. That was a great story. This story right here, Silences by Helen Elaine Lee. And it was a story about a same-sex couple and the silence that they received from people outside of their relationship and how they treat them even at death. And you know, I made a video some time ago about things that make me cry. That's one thing that always tears me up, is when same-sex couples, before you know, marriage was legal, not being able to be at their partner's end of life. That tears me up. So this story just like, it was like the waterworks. But anyway, I thought she's a great writer, and I've looked her up and added her to my TBR as well. So I hope you had a great reading month in June, and looking forward to what you're reading in July. Hope you have a good one. Have a great day. See you later.